Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer. Welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And this is a special episode because this is the beginning, just the beginning of Spielberg. So finally finished Scorsese, and now time to take a deep dive into Steven Spielberg's filmography, which I'll be doing until December. Literally the end of December. I think my first episode of this show for the new year will either be my next director or the Killers of the Flower Moon, depending on and when I get to see that. But this week, I have frequent collaborator here, Rowan. We spend a lot of time together now, don't we, Rowan?
We sure do, Shane. And yeah, so this is coming out this week. I think we have teased that we have something in the works, right?
I'm
Yeah.
going to tease it even more when I give one of my recommendations, because if you weren't going to bring it up, I was going to bring it up.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that in a bit. But besides what we might be teasing later, what would you like to shamelessly plug for all of our wonderful viewers?
Well, you can find a lot of my writing about movies on thelenientcritic.com. That's the LENIENT critic.com. I review most of the new releases that I see, and I also have a companion podcast that Shane has been on several times. That is the Lenient Critic Podcast, wherever podcasts are found. I also write for The Invention of Dreams and Sif Pop. So if you want to go check those out, that would be very helpful as well.
There you go. And that's how we met, because of Sith Pop.
True.
And now so many things. But this week's episode is on Amblin, which is a short film from Steven Spielberg before I jump into his TV movie days, then the Sugarland Express, and then Jaws. And then that's where it really gets interesting.
I'll be back then.
Yes.
Yeah.
But for this show, I have three parts. We have coming attractions for this week of Friday, April 22nd, 2022. We have our feature film, and we have some recommendations. So this weekend's very interesting because we're having count them, three wide releases. It's like pre-COVID numbers. We have The Bad Guys, which is a new animated film, and then some other ones thrown in there. We have Petite Maman, which seems to be finally getting a theatrical release after, almost 4 full months into this year. And some other things. But Rowan, what is your most anticipated movie for this weekend?
So my most anticipated movie, which I will admit up top that I've already seen, that we've both already seen actually, is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, starring Nicolas Cage as himself and Pedro Pascal as a billionaire who hires Cage to come out to his birthday party, and basically they become best friends. If you've seen the trailer for this movie, you have just a sense of how absolutely insane and exciting it is. And I can say that the trailers definitely do the film justice. You might think, wait a second, this movie looks hilarious. The trailers were hilarious, so therefore the trailers must have spoiled all the jokes. No way. Not even close. This movie had everyone in the theater dying of laughter. It was just so much fun. Everyone is giving 1,000%. I know I'm sort of lapsing into a review here, but this was all stuff that I was hoping for, and it was all stuff that I got. So, you cannot set your expectations too high for this movie because it delivers on nearly every level.
And for me, at least, the trailers leave out a lot of the heart and the weight of the movie, which just adds even more on top of it, which is great. And like Rowan said, we had both seen it. I loved it. I had so much fun with it.
Me too.
Now, another film that I have seen, which was my most anticipated for this weekend, is The Northman, which this is bigger, bolder, and just as crazy as any other Robert Eggers films, which is exactly what I was hoping for when you give Robert Eggers $90 million to make a Viking revenge epic, because we will have stuck in our heads forever: avenge father, save mother, kill Fjolnir, and Alexander Skarsgård just looking like an absolute monster of a man on screen. And I'm a huge fan of Robert Eggers. I'll be talking about him a little bit later with some recommendations. But he's basically the new king of folk horror, and he takes, like, just from the trailers alone, I was like, yes, this is everything. And he even said the trailers don't even lead on how weird the movie is. And boy, there's some weird stuff in this movie that trailer does not even hint at. And it's, if you're into Robert Eggers films and you want something weird and bold, this is definitely coming your way. So, oh, this was a special weekend. I was looking forward to this weekend of movies for a while. And
Yeah.
at least I've seen the two that I really wanted to see, and they both delivered. So hopefully you all go out. Hopefully you all go out and show both of these movies some love, especially The Northman, because it's a $90 million film. And I doubt that Robert Eggers will ever get a budget like that again if this movie isn't actually a success. So, but those are some coming attractions. And now it's time to talk about our feature, which is Amblin, which is available on YouTube.
Feature. Yeah.
Yes. It's a short film. It is like 25 minutes, if that. And it is horrible quality on YouTube where I watched it.
Yeah.
But so, Rowan, I always like to start off with, why did you want to come on for this episode?
Well, first of all, I will jump at any chance to be on one of your shows, and also
Rowan's a real MVP.
It seems that no one wanted to be on this one, and I think the reason for that is I feel like a lot of people don't know that, Steven Spielberg, he has Amblin and Entertainment, but I think a lot of people don't know that title comes from this film, his very first one that, really got him, quote unquote, discovered. I think, I think on Letterboxd it has like just a couple thousand people who have watched it, and scores that are like cumulatively less than that. And I just think it's really fascinating that the first film from one of the most accomplished and most skilled directors of all time is so little known. Now, I knew that this short existed beforehand, but I had never seen it. And being on a podcast or a YouTube show is the perfect opportunity to finally get me to watch a movie. And so I jumped at this chance to finally watch Amblin. And honestly, I may not have loved it, but I was glad I watched it.
Yeah, it's a sweet little film about a hitchhiker, young man, really rocking that like 60s folk guitar, like a lot, because there's like no dialogue in this short film. And it's just about a young man who's hitchhiking, meets a young woman hitchhiking. They go on some adventures, going out to the coast and where it takes them. So I guess, Rowan, what were some of the things that stuck out to you that you appreciated about the film?
Well, you already mentioned the fact that there is no dialogue. I think that was fascinating, and it really sets it apart from some other shorts that may have done this, but with dialogue. And I think that really elevates it, not to necessarily like being incredible, but it does make it unique, which is I think what it's striving to do. It has a great score. I love the score. I love the pieces of sound design that they chose to include associated with what the characters were doing, like the fire that they have, and when they're spitting on the street, you hear that. And I just think there are, like, you can see a lot of hints in here of the director that Spielberg will become. You can tell that there is someone extremely talented behind the camera. Letterboxd also tells me he has a cameo as annoying guy in Van, which I think is hilarious, that he put himself in this one. But this is still very much an amateur film, but I feel like it's about as interesting and stylistically unique as you can get with like an amateur film. And it's nothing, I expected nothing less from Spielberg to start off his filmography with something very interesting. And it may not be the most diverse or the most unique idea in terms of premise. It's a guy and a girl hanging out, falling in love, but it's just done very effectively. I will say it did start to lose me a little bit near the end. I think it could have been a little shorter, but all in all, I just thought it looked great. The sound was fantastic, and it's just a fantastic start for Spielberg.
Yeah, there was. I felt like Spielberg did so much with so little, and especially with like the little romance. Like I was sold. with their glances, their little smiles. They had the challenge of not being able to sell their connection with dialogue. And I feel like they did a really good job of building up this little connection, which, it's not like love, but like, you're smitten. And like you go on this road trip with each other, hitchhiking together. And I did love the music. That was definitely something that stood out and really captured this time period. It was that vagabond 60s kind of feel to it. And that really captured well in the film. I put crane pan to peeing in my notes because there's just like big crane like cutting over and like panning to him peeing in the bushes.
If you get a crane, that is the perfect thing to use it for.
Exactly. And it's just like you don't see that in like a little short film. It's just like, oh, that was an expert shot to show somebody peeing. Just like, hey, if you got it, do it.
Exactly.
That's an auteur right there.
You could also say that about going to the bathroom. If you got to, do it. But
it works on multiple levels. I thought that was interesting. There was one scene with weed, and like it felt like a little bit distorted in terms
appropriate
of like,
for the day that we're recording this on.
Yes, 420 blaze it, people. So, and some other little things, and like I thought it had a nice little like. This is obviously isn't a mystery, but there's a nice little reveal towards the end in terms of like what this young man has, because like he's carrying around this guitar case the whole entire time. And like, it really feels like a 60s ending. It's like there's no happy ending to this little love story. And it's like obviously like I wind up spoiling everything when I talk about movies on here. So like spoiler alert.
It's 25 minutes and it's on YouTube and it's like 60 years old. Come on, people.
She leaves. Like they get to the ocean and she leaves him. And he's like coming out of the water all excited and refreshed. And she just like, yep, she's gone. She's elusive. Can't tame that wild heart. And I feel like it's weird, but like I feel like that captures like what the 60s were like. And like obviously this is because when did he direct this?
68 was when it was released.
Yep. So like this was his little slice of the 60s before he did some TV movies and stuff like that. And I'm glad I watched it. And you could definitely tell it has that Spielberg charm to it. But I guess, Rowan, do you have anything else in particular that stuck out to you wanted to talk about with the film?
Yeah. So I really respected that it was a sweet little love story that subverts you towards the end. I quite enjoyed that. There was one shot that I made sure to write down that is the boy. Is it the boy that's in the rear view mirror, or is it the girl of the car? I know I just watched this earlier today, so so I might be saying like calling something out very specific, but I just thought that was like a shot that was way ahead of its time. And it's like a Citizen Kane-esque shot, which I thought was just very cool. My last note I wrote down was, we're all just ambling through life, and some people's journeys are going to take different forms. And this just so happened to be a very specific slice of life. And I thought that it was very well portrayed.
Yeah, I thought this was a sweet little film. And these are some of my favorite episodes that I've done with like the Scorsese ones where I did some of the short films. Like I wound up doing Italian American by myself, and it was very personal to me because being an Italian American, I'm just like,
well, if I had been around then, you wouldn't have had to do it by yourself.
There you go. See, that's what helps having a row in your life. And I'm sure Rowan will be popping up. Like I did get a decent amount of people to sign up for some Spielberg, but I know towards the beginning's a little light because I don't think the TV movies were tantalizing, except for Duel. My brother's going to be on the Duel episode.
Nice.
Because apparently his shop teacher, because like he used to work on cars and stuff in the auto shop at school, would just have Duel on all the time. car shop. I'm just like,
You
wow,
get
that makes a
personal
lot.
connection. Yeah.
Like that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
But hey, I recommend this. It's 25 minutes. It's a short investment. It's a sweet little movie, and it's right there on YouTube for free. So go show some love.
On a YouTube channel, by the way, called Famous First Films, that has a lot of really interesting shorts made by a lot of established directors. I know Robert Eggers' first film is on there. Oh Lord, a commercial that Gus Van Sant made that was a Psycho parody. A lot of really interesting stuff on there. So that is another
Did you say it was
recommendation.
a Psycho parody?
Yes, it was it was called like Psycho Shampoo or something, and it was a parody of the shower scene.
Yeah. So what you're saying is the Psycho movie he made wasn't a parody?
No. Well, you could argue that that the commercial was in fact. Wait, never mind. I was gonna be clever and I was gonna make a pun, but I'm not nearly as good at those as I think I am. So, yeah.
Let's just say that the actual Psycho remake he made should have just been a parody.
Yeah.
God. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Gus Van Sant, but I'm definitely going to check out more of those because, especially if they have Robert Eggers' first film on there, oh, I'm down.
Yeah.
Got my attention.
It's a Hansel and Gretel adaptation. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm very excited to.
God, I wish if he made that Gretel and Hansel adaptation that came out a couple years ago, which that was visually striking, and I did appreciate that. I wonder what that would have been like with the Robert Eggers touch.
Right.
But now, time for some recommendations for lovely people out there. But Rowan, what would you like to recommend to everybody?
So I will recommend a little 1932 film. You may have heard of it. It's called The Mummy. Not the 1959 one with Peter Cushing, although that one's good too. This is the original Mummy starring Boris Karloff, I believe.
Correct.
Yes, thank you. I didn't want to say Boris Karloff and have it be Lon Chaney and have all of the army of Universal Monster fans come at me. Yes, I still have to see. Hold on, I have to see The Wolfman, Phantom of the Opera, Dracula, and that's it. Those are the only three I have not yet seen. But yeah, so The Mummy is. I was warned before I watched it that it was slow. So I went in prepared for that. And yes, it is slow, but it's also just a little over an hour. So it's not as much of a slog as you might think. Yeah, so we have Karloff. He plays the titular mummy, but also you might be surprised to learn that he's not really the mummy throughout the whole film. He is playing the mummy, but the mummy is quite a different character than you might think. And yeah, I just really, really love this movie's aesthetic. I just think it's incredibly made. You do have to have a certain level of patience because everyone speaks very slowly, or at least some characters do. And so you kind of have to get used to it. But aside from that, I thought it was just visually incredible. And, it's didn't necessarily set the precedent for monster movies going forward, but it definitely contributed to the it just contributed to the scene that would eventually, of course, become Hammer horror, and then segueing into modern horror. So you wouldn't have the monster movies we have today without, or really probably any horror movies that we have today without these universal ones. And The Mummy is a very strong and important part of that. So,
and he did indeed play Imhotep.
Yeah.
Which, yes, we would not get the amazing, absolutely wonderful 90s The Mummy without this one,
or the even better Tom Cruise Mummy.
I wasn't being facetious. I hope you were.
I know. Yeah.
That's the thing, because I love that Brendan Fraser Mummy movie, and I feel like people are just like, oh, it's just like a fun, it is like a modern swashbuckling adventure film, and also was terrifying and scared the crap out of me as a kid. Oh my God, I could not watch that movie when I was a kid. But those Universal horror films really set the groundwork for so much to come after. I have to take a deeper dive into Hammer horror, but I've obviously done my diving into Universal horror as I had my double collections. Maybe someday I'll get the ultimate collection with all of them. kind of thing. But right now I got 8 of them. So there you go. Now, I did watch enough things this past week to give a bit of a variety. I always, if I can, I like to give 3 recommendations. One of my movies that I rewatched, a movie off my watch list, and also a new film. The new film that I wanted to recommend was Paris 13th District. And it's a sexy, intimate, and really gripping romance. It's a French film. It actually has one of the actresses from Portrait of a Lady on Fire in it as one of the 4 main characters, because basically it's like these 4 characters meeting each other. Some of them just stay with friendships, some of them become romantic relationships. I will warn you, it's very graphic. There are a lot of sex scenes in it. This movie's very French. But the thing is, it's like, yeah, it's very intimate and really well shot. And it's moving and engaging. And I really felt for those characters. And by the end, I'm like, I really like this film a lot. So I wanted to recommend it. To tease the podcast that Rowan and I have coming on the horizon, we did watch for one of our second episode that will be coming eventually, Hard Boiled from John Woo, because that had been on my watch list for so long. And as the long winding road turned out to be, that I was just sitting there on YouTube. So just watched it on YouTube. And then I did actually wind up buying it afterwards. So like I have a copy of it now on DVD. Nice. But John Woo. So I'm not going to say a lot about it. I just recommend, if you're an action fan, my God, just bang, 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 bang. Just craziness. But if you want the full story, you're going to have to tune into our podcast that will be coming up. And obviously, I will be shamelessly plugging on all my social media accounts, and you'll know when it's coming.
Of course.
My last one, though, and a lot of talking about Robert Eggers. I rewatched The Witch on Sunday because my fiance had never seen it. And she absolutely loves The Lighthouse. So rewatching The Witch, it's next level kind of folk horror. Like, that is atmospheric and unnerving as hell. And Anya Taylor-Joy is a star. And this was where it all began. And she had some great veterans with her, with Ralph Ineson and Kate Dickie, who both do a great job. But like, my God, the imagery in it, and it's a tough sell, because it's like this witch story off in the middle of the woods with this family is so religious that even like the Puritans are like, whoa, you're too extreme for us, get the hell out of here, and like banish them to the woods. And I remember watching that for the first time, and all I'm going to say is peekaboo. That got me so bad. I'm like, I don't like this. And where that went, I didn't like it even more. But it's disturbing, it's unnerving, and it's incredibly well crafted. And you could tell Robert Eggers is a master of drawing upon mythology, mythos, folklore, and just creating something really impressive with it, which is why you should also see The Northman. And I'm going to go ahead.
So I just thought of, you just jogged my memory of one more thing that I could recommend that also counts as a coming attraction. So I could tie those two together there. But if I interrupted you talking about
no, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So speaking of unnerving horror, HBO has a new British TV series called The Baby that is coming out this upcoming Sunday. I have seen the first 3 episodes. I believe there are 8. I have the first 6. So I've seen the first 3. This series is, if you've ever if you've wanted to be a parent, I don't know if this show would be perfect for you, especially if you are actively having discussions about having a baby, because it's weird and it's creepy. And so essentially, this woman who is so irresponsible, she never wants to have kids. She makes fun of her friends who have kids. She's walking outside one night. All of a sudden, boom, a body falls on the ground, splatters on the lawn. What the hell's going on? Next, a baby drops into her arms. How? What? Gradually, she comes to, she brings the baby around, and people around her when she has the baby begin to start dying. And so she begins to think, oh, maybe it's the baby's fault. Maybe the baby is a demon baby. And the series progresses from there and gets into some incredibly weird places. And I'm only halfway through, yeah, I guess I'm just about a third through of the series. It is a limited series, so it's supposed to be telling a contained story. But yeah, this series is bonkers. If you're into weird horror or if you're into British TV, this series is extremely British, and I love that. Yeah, the baby starts on HBO on Sunday. So very
Do you know
excited
if
for that.
this is so like this is going to be like its 10 o'clock slot on Sunday night?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I know Winning Time probably only has a couple more episodes left.
I think they have 3.
Yeah. So like I know recently it's just been like Winning Time. I think they were just playing it back to back.
Right, and then John Oliver afterward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I will definitely be watching on Sunday.
Yeah.
So there you go. Because I'm definitely one of those people that always watches the Sunday and Monday night HBO shows that they have going on. So this will be nice to be. Why can't they switch them? It would be a much better palate cleanser to have Winning Time to watch afterwards before I go to bed. But well, I'll just have to watch the Lakers and then watch Demon Baby afterwards.
Yeah. It's only the episodes are only half hour, so they're not too long. But
awesome.
yeah,
I'll take that.
That
makes that a little bit easier.
Yeah,
because Winning Time's that hard, like whole hour episode too. But yeah, so one little quick shout out too, since I brought up the witches, I'm in the process of writing a recommends article for Scribe Magazine for the Wasteland watch list for folk horror films to check out with the Northmen coming out. So keep an eye out for that. But that's the show. Much shorter one. See, this is what happens when you watch 25-minute movies instead of 3.5-hour movies like The Irishman, like last week. You don't have an hour plus episode of talking about it. But Rowan, thank you so much as always for coming on, and you'll be seeing Rowan more on some more Spielberg episodes over the next 8 months.
However many months, yeah.
But thank you, Rowan. Thank all of you for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.